Well, actually, it's a good place to start with the tipping because one thing I kind of find is one, when you're sort of pricing up a cruise, you get a price, you think, oh, that's quite a good price. And then there's the, yeah, we'd like another, X amount of money on top to have the tips on top. And you go, okay, so that's extra we need to add on top of it. But and luckily, Virgin, and I kind of did notice with the crew as well, is that there's no tips and things, so people are genuinely happy and want to help you and talk to you, not because they're expecting a tip at the end, but because they genuinely are interested and they're just generally happy, friendly people.
It's a really good point, that is, and I think it's one of the things that I find quite difficult to articulate to somebody about the vibe on board and the crew. And I do really put it down to that, is that because if I think about, say, other cruise brands, so we might be in a situation where we've prepaid our tips or you tip as you like, but tips are always sort of this undercurrent that underpins the service proposition. Whereas I think because we never talk about tips, it's, you don't prepay them, they're not included, we just don't talk about tipping at all. Because that is a bit of a weird thing. Like if I was going out for a meal on Saturday night to my local restaurant, I wouldn't think, right, I'll book my table and then I'll prepay my tips before I go, before I've had the service. So,
Very true.
I mean, it's just a really odd thing, but it's something that it is done in the cruise, isn't it? It's not done anywhere else, but it is done in cruise. So I think the removal of tips means that our crew, you're absolutely right, give great service because they love people, they're having a great time, they want you to have a great time with them. And somebody said to me once about when they first set sail, it felt like the crew were also on holiday but just had a job to do. And I think that's a really good way of describing it, because I do think our crew are exceptional, and you see a lot of crew in public areas as well, so we encourage them to eat in our restaurants. You might see a crew member in the gym, which is, I think, quite a nice feel, because it takes away that feeling of, oh, you're the sailors and we've got to bow down and scrape to you. They're just alongside you, and they want you to have a really great time. And I think that means they give great service because they genuinely want to, and it's all a big part of our recruitment process and everything. We recruit people because they like being with people and they like looking after people, and we pay them fairly as well, and we give them things like Wi-Fi. So that's one of Richard Branson's ethos main things, look after your people and your people will look after your customers. And I think that's so true in what we do.
Yeah, I mean, I worked on a cruise ship and I wasn't part of the crew where you needed to be tipped or anything like that, but it was very much, it's a completely different vibe. And speaking to some of the crew on board, and some of them have come from cruise lines, some of them one of them said he used to work for the Ritz-Carlton in Abu Dhabi. So it's that kind of high level kind of service, but they're allowed to be a bit more freer than, it's very much, it's people from all over the world, different nationalities, races, relatives, and things.
There's definitely a whole thing about just come as you are. The crew come as they are, which means the sailors feel comfortable, and we get a lot of kudos for being for people feeling really comfortable, no matter what their background is, feeling really comfortable when they're on board, because the crew are like that. So, if you've got pink hair, and sometimes you might go on a traditional cruise ship and be looked at with. I remember cruising with my son when he was about 16, and he got this hair. It was very blonde at the time, but it had got purple. It had got a purple tint. And I remember we were on a traditional cruise line, and everywhere we went, I could almost feel people nudging, going, "There's that lad with the purple hair." Whereas on Virgin, nobody bat an eyelid, because there's probably a crew member that's got pink, green, yellow hair.
Oh, yeah. So
just funky.
Yeah.